Hello there, this is the news on NTA International. I am Charles Alpha. My sign language interpreter is Shagun Ajayi. Remember, you can watch this news on Vision TV 24/7 and other social media displayed on your screen. But first, the headlines. European Union lawmakers approve major revamp of blocked migration laws. Russia flood situation worsens as major river burst bank. A National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control recalls Benylin Patriotic Syrup manufactured by Johnson & Johnson. Today is World Parkinson's Day, the day of on April 11 every year is to raise awareness about this disorder. The World Health Organization set the day to explore new research methods by which they can restrict or slow down the progress of this disease. Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder that mainly targets the nervous system and affects the parts of the body controlled by nerves. Some of the symptoms of Parkinson's disease are tremors, slow movement, stiffness, and loss of balance. Parkinson's disease usually starts slow with tremors that are hardly visible. And joining us now in the studio to speak on World Parkinson's Day is the head of Neurology, Unit Department of Medicine, University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Dr. Gerard Ongwezie. You are welcome to the studios of the NTA International.
Thank you very much.
All right. April 11 is a day set aside every year to raise awareness about Parkinson's disease. Can you give us a brief about this disease?
Well, Parkinson's disease is a disease. It's a neurodegenerative disease. It's a disease that has been known to man since 1817. It was discovered by Dr. James Parkinson's, and today is a day to commemorate and to remember those people who suffer from Parkinson's. And the day is marked by raising awareness on research, treatment, and also trying to find a cure for the disease.
Okay, so while you're trying to find a cure for the disease, I'd like to know what is or are the causes of this disease, and what are the preventive measures you think should be taken?
Well, the cause of the disease remains largely unknown. However, a lot of work has been done in that area. Environmental factors play a role. This will include living in rural communities, use of well water, toxins have also been implicated, use of pesticides. The other important factor is genetic factors, which a lot of work has also been done. There's the Parkinson gene, the alpha-synuclein. We have a Nigerian research Parkinson group which has done some work, and we've been able to find out the gene for the first time in African ancestral descent, the GBA1 gene. This has been found out, and this has been linked to Parkinson's. This has a lot of implication for treatment in the near future and drug discoveries.
So I'm just wondering, listening to you right now, talking about Parkinson's disease, can you give us the statistics of the number of people affected by this, of course, this disease, and the rates in Nigeria?
Well, globally, the Parkinson's disease is said to occur in about 0.3% of the population, and if we extrapolate that to Nigeria, given our estimated population of about 220 million, we'll get about 680,000 people being affected by this Parkinson's disease. That is the estimated rate for Nigeria. But of course, we know that a lot of our patients may not get to the hospital and may not present to us. But this is the estimated rate. Work is ongoing now in Lagos, where they are trying to map and do door-to-door assessment and to see whether we can get a true prevalence rate rather than working with estimations.
All right, Dr. Gerard, I'd like to say thank you very much for finding time to talk to us on NTA International News. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right. And now, the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control has recalled Benylin pediatric syrup manufactured by Johnson & Johnson following recent toxicity findings in the laboratory of the product. The agency, which disclosed these on its website, said laboratory analysis conducted on the product showed that it contained an unacceptably high level of diethylene glycol and was found to cause acute oral toxicity in laboratory animals, and it has directed the marketing authorization holder of Benylin pediatric syrup, Johnson & Johnson Company West Africa, to initiate the recall of the batch, and the notice will also be uploaded to the WHO Global Surveillance and Monitoring System. The details of the product show that the product is manufactured by Johnson & Johnson in Cape Town, South Africa, with batch number 329304. The product was manufactured in May 2021 and it is to expire this month, April 2024. NAFDAC, however, implored importers, distributors, retailers, and consumers to exercise caution and vigilance within the supply chain to avoid the importation, distribution, sale, and use of substandard, contaminated, regulated products, while calling on all Nigerians to obtain any medical products from authorized, licensed suppliers. The product's authenticity and physical condition should be carefully checked. And now in other news, European Union lawmakers have approved a major revamp of the bloc's migration laws, hoping to end years of division over how to manage the entry of thousands of people without authorization and deprive the far right of a vote-winning campaign issue ahead of June election. Austin Anyebe reports.
It is closed. Adopted.
In a series of 10 votes, members of the European Parliament endorsed the regulations and policies that make up the pact on migration and asylum. The reforms address the thorny issue of who should take responsibility for migrants when they arrive and whether other EU countries should be obliged to help. The proceedings were briefly interrupted by a small but noisy group of demonstrators in a public gallery who wore shirts marked "This Pact Kills" and shouted "Vote No." The 27 EU member countries must now endorse the reform package, possibly in a vote in late April, before it can take effect.
We promised a new system that is fair with those eligible for protection, that is firm with those who are not, and that is strong against the traffickers and the networks preying on the most vulnerable of people.
The plan was drawn up after 1.3 million people, mostly those fleeing war in Syria and Iraq, sought refuge in Europe in 2015. The EU's asylum system collapsed. Reception centers were overwhelmed in Greece and Italy, and countries further north built barriers to stop people entering. But few have admitted to being happy with the new policy response to one of Europe's biggest political crises, and even the lawmakers who drafted parts of the new regulations are unwilling to support the entire reform package. Swedish parliamentarian Malin Jok, who worked on refugee settlement, said that the pact does not respond to any of the questions it was said to solve. She said the reform package undermines the individual right to seek asylum in Europe because it will build on plans that some EU countries already have to process migrants abroad. Italy has concluded one such deal with Albania. The new rules include controversial measures, facial images, and fingerprints could be taken from children from the age of 6, and people may be detained during screening. Fast-track deportation could be used on those not permitted to stay. Austin Anyebe, NTA News.
And in Africa, Mali's military leaders have suspended all activities of political parties and political associations until further notice, citing reasons of public order. Minister of Territorial Administration Abdoulaye Maiga at the press conference in Bamako says the decision was taken at a weekly cabinet meeting. Abdoulaye Maiga said the ban on political activities was made in the interest of maintaining public order. A statement did not specify any threats to public order emanating from political parties. There was no indication of when the suspension will be lifted. Mali bans political party activities as calls for elections grow. Mali has been under army rule since August 2020. Russia says unprecedented flooding has created difficult conditions as another major river bursts its banks, submerging roads and villages in the Siberian region of Tomsk. Uche Ugochukwu completes the report.
Fast rising temperatures have caused snow and ice to melt rapidly, causing a number of major rivers that cross Russia and Kazakhstan to overflow. Reports say 3 villages in the Tomsk region, 3,000 kilometers east of Moscow, were cut off from the regional capital when rising waters in River Tom flooded roads, villages and several houses. Evacuations were continuing in neighboring Kazakhstan, where around 100,000 people have been forced to leave their homes. In Russia, the Orenburg region has been the worst hit, with thousands of residential buildings submerged in water. The Orenburg city administration said this year's flood exceeded all historical figures in the entire history. Water levels in the Ural River, which flows past the city, have risen nearly 1 meter since Wednesday morning. The river was 10.6 meters high on Thursday morning, 1.3 meters above what officials described as a critical level. Spring floods are typical across large parts of Russia and Kazakhstan as temperatures rise and vast masses of ice and snow melt. The runoff into rivers often causes them to burst their banks. However, this year's flood have been the worst in decades. This is occasioned with temperatures rising quickly, accelerating the thawing process, and torrential rain also aggravated the situation. Officials in the Siberian region of Tyumen warned that the Tobel and Ishim rivers would not attain their highest levels until April 23 to 25, according to forecasts from Russia's meteorological agency. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
Uche Ugochukwu is also reporting that Thai soldiers are on alert at the border town of Mae Sot after the Myanmar junta troops withdrew from their position in a major trade hub near the Thai border following days of clashes.
Myanmar rebels fighting the junta say they have seized the last remaining military base in a key border town, dealing the last significant blow to the country's military rulers as they struggle to cling to power. About 200 soldiers abandoned their base in the southeastern town of Myanmar and were pushed to the bridge linking Myanmar to Thailand following an attack Wednesday night by Karen resistance fighters, leading to the loss of the major trading points with Thailand, a big issue for the military. Myanmar, a strategically important town of 200,000 people, sits across from Thailand's Mae Sot. The border crossing, which was under the control of the junta, was vital for trade, especially commercial goods and food flowing into Myanmar. It is also the location for multiple compounds that form the billion-dollar online scam factories that have exploded inside Myanmar's lawless border regions in recent years. Many of the factories are staffed by foreign nationals forced to work in conditions similar to modern-day slavery. The UN estimates that up to 120,000 people could be held in compounds across Myanmar. The KNU, one of the Myanmar's most powerful ethnic armed organizations, said its armed wing captured the last remaining military base in the town after negotiations for the junta's troops to lay down their arms failed. Since April 5, the Karen National Liberation Army, the KNU's military wing, and its allies have seized military outposts and bases on the outskirts of Myanmar.
We cannot just ignore situation inside Myanmar as an internal affair. The non-interference policy should not be taken serious as a priority. Now, people both sides inside Myanmar and also inside Thailand have been impacted by this incident. So that's why the Thai government need to get ready to plan on a more comprehensive approach to deal with the situation.
Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. Let's now take a quick break. More reports ahead. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Vietnamese billionaire Trong My Lan has been sentenced to death for looting one of Vietnam's largest banks over a period of 11 years. Uche Ugochukwu reports that it was the most spectacular trial ever held in Vietnam, befitting one of the greatest bank frauds the world has ever seen.
Trong My Lan was sentenced at the stately yellow portico of the colonial-era courthouse in Ho Chi Minh City. The 67-year-old Vietnamese property developer, sentenced to death on Thursday, is one of the very few women in Vietnam to be sentenced to death for a white-collar crime. Trong My Lan was convicted of taking out $44 billion in loans from the Saigon Commercial Bank. The verdict requires her to return $27 billion, a sum prosecutors said may never be retrieved. Some believe the death penalty is the court's way of trying to encourage her to return some of the missing billions. The communist authorities were uncharacteristically forthright about this case, going into details for the media. Reports say about 2,700 people were summoned to testify, while 10 state prosecutors and around 200 lawyers were involved. The evidence was in 104 boxes, weighing a total of 6 tons, while 85 defendants were tried with Trong My Lan, who denied the charges. The trial was the most dramatic chapter so far in the anti-corruption campaign led by the Communist Party Secretary General Nguyen Phu Trong. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
In Nigeria, the federal government is committed to evolving a legal system that will improve citizens' access to justice and restore the confidence of the people in the justice sector. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi SAN stated these while addressing the media on the proposed National Summit on Justice in Abuja. Judiciary correspondent Dele Atumbi reports.
The justice sector of any nation is the enabler of the economy upon which other sectors rest for an improved society. Due to the importance of the justice sector to the overall development of the nation, citizens, including legal minds, have been clamoring for a holistic reform of the justice sector. In response to the improvement in the justice sector, in less than 1 year, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration is convoking a national summit on justice later this month. The National Summit on Justice intends to address the challenges plaguing Nigeria's justice sector and pave the way for the much-needed reforms that will make justice more accessible to all Nigerians. It will also give key players in the sector the unique opportunity to collectively tackle the pressing issues hindering the efficient, fair, and people-centered delivery of justice in Nigeria. The National Summit will bring together experts, legal professionals, and key players from across the country to engage in constructive discussions and develop practical solutions that will prioritize the justice needs of the average Nigerian.
One of the summit's goals is to review, validate, and adopt the revised National Policy on Justice Sector 2024-2028 to drive prison reforms, access to justice for average Nigerians, as well as the review of electoral laws and procedures in handling election-related cases, among several other reforms. This comprehensive policy document outlines a broad framework and initiative in 17 thematic areas aimed at reforming the justice sector to enhance its effectiveness and accessibility to all Nigerians, ensuring that justice is not just a privilege for the few, but a right for all.
cannot, by any stretch of imagination, be toyed with, cannot be treated with levity, and that is why, under the leadership of the Honorable Attorney General, he has given profound attention to the issues of the judiciary, understanding the critical nature of the judiciary in every democratic setting.
The National Summit on Justice with a team repositioning the justice system, constitutional, statutory and operational reforms for access and efficiency is being put together by the federal government in collaboration with the Nigerian Bar Association. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
The former Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, is dead. Dr. Uzoma Onu, who announced his death on behalf of the family, said he passed on in the early hours of Thursday at the age of 73. Justin Bermunye was at the residence of the deceased and now reports.
A visit to the residence of the former Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, shows that sympathizers are already trooping in to commiserate with the family, with a condolence register opened. Some of the family members and friends expressed their feelings and shock about the demise of the late minister.
We are in a very deep sorrow. The family has lost one of the pathfinders of this nation. The family has also lost his first son. Okay, is the very first son of the family of late David Abaon Ezaduwan of Uburu. Okay, so it's a big loss.
Yeah, it's a very huge loss to the family, to Southeast, to Nigeria as a country. And you will agree with me, as a Pan-Africanist, it's a very huge loss to the continent Africa. You know, losing him at a time when we need aristocrats, you know, to chart a new course for modern Nigeria.
Late Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu was a former governor of Old Abia State and was the first chairman of the Conference of Nigerian Governors, now Nigeria Governors Forum. He was the former national chairman of the defunct All Nigeria People's Party, ANPP, and initiated and facilitated discussions that resulted in the formation of the All Progressives Congress, APC, which has been the ruling political party in the country since May 29, 2015. Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu was the former Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, a position he held for 7 years, having been reappointed in the second tenure of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Our economy had been diversified. We have a strong industrial base. We will not be importing the things we are importing today. So the pressure on our naira will not be what it is now. And then the effect will not be what it is. And the recovery will be easier.
He resigned as minister and contested for the presidential primaries of the APC. He was a distinguished and patriotic Nigerian who served the nation effectively and efficiently in all the numerous positions he held. Justin Bermunye, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has extended his deepest condolences to the Onu family over the passing of Chief Ogbonnaya Onu, who passed away on Thursday at the age of 73. The president mourns a luminous star in Nigeria's political firmament, being the first civilian governor of Abia State, former Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, a principal draftsman in the founding of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and a valiant partner in the victory of the party in the 2015 election. Most importantly, the president celebrates the life of an accomplished scholar, a first-class engineer, a man of proven integrity, defiant to indiscipline, but ever yielding to the highest standards of rectitude. President Tinubu prays to God Almighty to grant repose to the gentle soul of his great leader. Similarly, former President Muhammadu Buhari joins family members of the deceased and the entire nation in mourning the demise of a notable politician, Dr. Ogbonnaya Onu, the first civilian governor of Abia State and former Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation under his administration. In his reaction to the news on the death of the former chairman of the All Progressives, All Nigerian People's Party, ANPP, a party that once fielded him as a presidential candidate, Muhammadu Buhari said the nation had lost one of its most outstanding scientific minds and intellectuals, as he was an intellectual giant. He said his heart goes out to his family, the government and the people of old Abia State and the country at large. And next is our weather report. Well, that is it on the news on NTA International. I am Charles Alpha. My sign language interpreter has been Shegwaja. Many thanks for watching.